Taken Up 2078, and today I want to talk to you about the scroll spoken of in the book of Revelation. So this is going to be part 2. What is the scroll? Part 2. Okay, so let's go to Revelation chapter 5. And look at the text. So we're just going to stick with the Niv. And for anybody who didn't watch the last video, we were going over chapter 5, talking about this scroll in the right hand of him who sat on the throne. I saw writing on both sides, and I saw a scroll with writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals. So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about this scroll. What is it, and what exactly was it for? Well, in the first video, we said the scroll is possibly a deed for the earth. The earth. Okay? But I do want to look at the scroll in a little bit more detail. So there was writing on both sides and sealed with 7 seals, right? When we scroll down a little bit, it says, "Because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. You made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on earth." So we see here that the scroll was purchased with the blood of Jesus. Okay? So this relates the scroll to all Christians. All, oops. To all Christians. And the deed for the earth is related to the earth because the earth was originally lost, and Leviticus tells us that you can buy back land even if you're not the original person who lost land. And we know that the earth is where Jerusalem will be, so we know that God or Jesus will need to reclaim it from Satan. So let me undo that. Reclaim from, from Satan. Okay, so now that we've got that straightened out, there's a few other points that I want to go over with the scroll. We know that the scroll is related to the judgments, or it's related to the events that occur in Revelation. And when we look at Revelation, we know that there's going to be 3 sets of 7, and these 7 will be events. So it'll look something like this. 7 trumpets, 7 seals. Actually, it will look more like this. Yikes, let me undo this. Let me add my color swatches so it's a little bit easier for me to switch. Enlarge this, get rid of that, fix that. Okay, I probably could have done this a little bit more elegantly, but either way. 7 trumpets. Man, that is just way too thick. Okay, let's try this. That's still too thick. Okay, I guess that's a little bit better. Trumpets, okay. And then it can go all the way like this. And it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll have seals. And it'll look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then finally, vials. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So let's go over the book of Revelation. There's a nice summary of the book of Revelation and the 7 seals. Book of Revelation. Let me see if I can find the chapters and meanings. Okay. So here we have the seals. So let's talk about the seals a little bit. Looks like the seals go before the trumpets. I'm gonna have to fix that. So let me enlarge this, clean this up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Kind of switched that up. I guess sometimes it can be a little tricky doing this on the fly, but okay, so we have the seals and the trumpets. Though I do believe the first trumpet is blown. No, okay, that's the first trumpet. Okay. So let's go back to the seals. So the seals will have the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and the pale horse. The 5th seal will be the souls under the altar. The 6th seal will be the great earthquake. And then the sealing of the 144,000. And the 7th seal will be the silence in heaven. So let's read through some of these verses. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals, and then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." And I looked, before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. So we know these seals will trigger the start. That's a little thick. It's going to trigger the start of the end times, or at least the 7-year tribulation. Start of the 7-year tribulation. Okay. And it'll involve the white horse, which is the Antichrist. He's going to have a bow, which will represent he'll be a man of war. He'll go around conquering. Bows are a very effective way. They were a very effective way to fight war in old times. I mean, you shot from a distance. You know, it was all about aim and having true aim and good aim and hitting your target. it's less up close and personal than a sword. I think it describes the character of, I think the bow is going to describe the character of the Antichrist. So a bow is, from a distance. It's from a distance, it's you have to specifically aim, and it's more of like a sniper sort of weapon or a distance weapon. So I guess we're good with what we've got, but this man will be conquering. The Antichrist will be conquering. Okay. And he was given a bow, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. All right, so let's go over the next seal. All right, and the red horse. There's a very popular game called Darksiders, which has its own interpretation of the red horse. Though it's a very cool game that I've played myself, it's definitely not the best depiction. I think the art style is reasonable. I think his personality is also reasonable. I think his weapon is reasonable. But his motives were a little bit more pure in the game. Whereas in this, I mean, he's the god of war. His job, or well, not the god, the angel of war, his job is to start war. And when he's called, that's what he does. In the game, it's kind of a different story, kind of tries to draw him in a good light, and it's not really accurate. So this will be the red horse. Maybe we can change this to red. Red horse. Red horse. War. Angel of war. Death. Murder. And mayhem. All right, so let's check out the black horse. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard a living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a black horse. It was a rider holding a pair of scales in his hand. So this is really interesting. Then I heard what sounded like a voice among four creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages, 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and wine. So here we'll have the black horse. Let's undo that and change the color to black. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong seal. Okay. The black horse. And this horse is going to have, as we saw, a pair of scales. And he's going to talk about wages and not damaging produce. So he's going to talk about black horse. He's going to talk about wages, not damaging. If only I could spell better. Not damaging produce and crops. He's going to talk about don't damage that. Okay, let me go back. Wages. Talks about wheat, barley, oil, and wine. Why does he talk about wheat, barley, oil, and wine? Wheat, barley, oil, and wine. If you go to the grocery store, if you took the entire world and you summed up the average of all food in the entire world, you'd probably get corn, rice, and wheat are some of the main things that take up all food, all, SpaghettiOs, mac and cheese, frozen pizza, um, vegetable oil, syrup. All that stuff is made from corn oil. I know syrup should be made from sap and boiled until it turns into syrup, but most of the time it's made from a lot of corn syrup. All that stuff is made from grains, wheat, bread, barley. I mean, people used to, use barley too, and they used to use barley to make beer. Of course they would. I don't know much about what they would if they would eat it, but I assume they would. Oil. I mean, come on, you can't cook without oil. Oil's used in medicine. Oil's used for light in the old days. Oil's used as seasoning. Oil's used for cooking. I mean, this covers. I'll put here, AKA food supplies, cooking, and I guess I'll put medicine, though this is not really, 100% on medicine, but they did use oil for some medical purposes back when this was originally written. Wine, so, drinks. One of the special things about wine is if you keep it sealed, it doesn't spoil. So the idea here is we have a black horse. Why is he worried about wages, not damaging produce, crops, wheat, oil, barley, wine? Why all this stuff? Because there will be lots of war, so there won't be men, so there will be less men farming and working, right? There'll be less men farming and working. That looks like warting, but I promise you it's working. Working. And so crops will be much more valuable. Why does he have a scale? Well, 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages. So it looks like people are going to be paid in food. That's a lot of barley for a day's wages. I'll tell you one thing. When I think of black, I think of grim, dark, death. I think that these scales are more significant, but we will continue on reading about the seals and what happens when they're broken moving forward, and then we'll come back to the black horse later. Perhaps we'll come back. But let's go to the pale horse. All right. And when the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given a power over the fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by wild beasts of the earth. So here we have the fourth horse. All right, we got a pale horse. So a pale horse is a horse that's not white, it's not red, it's not black, it's pale. It looks sick, it looks gangly. It's not a healthy horse. You don't go to a horse race and say, "Hey, did Seabiscuit's looking a little pale? Looks like he's going to win the race." That doesn't make any sense. A pale horse is a horse that's not doing well. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. So we don't really know what Death would look like, but I'm going to do my best to do a little stick figure drawing of a horse. Okay. And its rider. All right, there's a horse. There's its rider. It's going to have a little shroud on him, like that. All right. All right. And then Hades is close behind him. I don't really know what Hades would look like from this point. We don't know, at least. They were given a power over a fourth of the earth to kill by the sword. So there he has power over a fourth of the earth. So, all right, everyone's going to war. Resources are limited. We got a man that's conquering everybody. And finally, a fourth of the earth dies from murder, famine, plague, and just, I guess, creatures. You know, I've had a theory about this. I don't know if you've ever seen on YouTube all the monkeys in garbage dumps in India, but it's insane. Look it up. There's like a million monkeys in these landfills. It's crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if a humongous army of apes just rise up out of nowhere, just like Planet of the Apes, and start tearing apart humanity. You know how strong apes are? If you don't know, look at a YouTube video or Google an image of a shaved chimp. It's insane how jacked they are. Okay, so the pale horse, Hades, which we all know what Hades is, that's aka hell. AKA hell. Hades, we got famine, we got murder, and then, wild creatures. All right. Plague. Forgot about the plague. The plague isn't really so, due to COVID and, a lot of things that have happened. The Spanish flu and the Black Plague. Plague doesn't really seem that far off. There's nothing modern medicine could do to stop COVID right now. There were vaccines, but there were booster shots, and there had to have been more than 5 boosters. I don't know how many there were, but there were a lot, and it just didn't stop it. So finally, it died down after it ran its course, and there was herd immunity. But we don't have a way to cure of necessarily stop a virus. We have methods to hinder it, but you can't just stop it dead in its tracks. All right, so let's keep going. The souls under the altar. When he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they had maintained. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" And each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer, until the number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, were killed just as they had been. All right, so we got the next seal. Did I skip one? I think I did. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I did. Okay, so here's the 5th seal. Starting to run out of space here. So this is the souls who have been slain. So I'll talk about this. Slain souls. And they were Christian. These were Christians. Some people say that these slain souls are that they are purely people who were not Christians before the end times occurred and the rapture occurred. And these are people who turned to God after all the seals began to be broken. It's best, in my opinion, it's best to refer to the events in Revelation by the seals, the trumpets, or the vials, and what between which of those breakings, blow or pourings, or I guess trumpet blow trumpet noises are done, because then you have a real, like, sort of you have a real chronological ordering of how the events occurred. It's a lot easier to go by that. Also, for people who claim that Revelation repeats the same story multiple times, there are scenarios where it does that, but in general, it wouldn't make sense for the same thing in the trumpets to occur when the seals occur. All these events that are occurring are separate events, at least for the most part, because a seal is broken to represent each of these. Then a trumpet is blown to represent each of the next events. So let's move forward and let's talk about these people. So whenever you hear the Bible talk about a white robe, generally a white robe is given to someone to represent their righteous deeds. When Judgment Day comes, when you go to heaven, you will not be judged based off the wrongdoings you have done. That will be forgotten. I know a lot of people don't understand that. And if anybody wants to debate that, feel free to comment in the comment section of this video. Or, I mean, I can make we could do like a podcast episode. We could talk about it. Or I could come on your channel and we could talk about it. But I am convinced 100% on Judgment Day, based on Zechariah, Isaiah, what Jesus said, Revelation, God does not remember your sin. It is washed away. When you wash away dirty underwear, say there was some brown streaks in it, do you remember exactly where they were and what angle they were at and how big they were and what they looked like? Maybe your wife would, because she'd be traumatized. But I digress from the brown streaks. But when you have a dirty piece of laundry and it has some old food on it and some other stains, whatever the stains are, and you wash it, it's washed away. You don't remember, you don't memorize the dirt on something. Then you're just living in the past and you're looking back. I mean, it just makes me think of the pillar of salt. So, these white robes represent righteousness, and when you go to heaven, you will only be judged on the righteous deeds you do. That's why you will be given crowns, you will be given rewards. You'll have treasure saved up for you in heaven based off the good deeds that you do. So anyways, they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, were killed, just as they had been. Why is this? If we go back to Abraham, if we go back to Sodom and Gomorrah, we know that God waits until the last possible person is saved before he judges. And when I say judge, I don't mean like give rewards. I mean judge, like hellfire judge. God is waiting for the last of the fellow servants to be saved. That's what's happening right now in the end times. I am well aware that Christianity is on a decline, and that is fulfilling the prophecy of the end times. God is waiting for every last Christian to be saved so that we all get on the Noah's Ark of the end times before the rapture occurs. This may sound like gibberish to someone who's not Christian, and I can dive into these concepts a little bit more, but it's very hard to understand these concepts if you are not a Christian, if you're not born again. The Bible tells us people who don't have the Spirit cannot understand these. And not only that, there are some Christians that might not understand this, and that's okay. And not everybody's going to agree with this, but I'm just going to tell people the things that I see and I understand, and from how I interpret things. All right, let's move on. All right, so this is pretty clear cut. All right. So one thing I often hear people say is, will I have a new body in heaven? Yes, of course you will. okay? And they say, well, we won't get our new body until so and so. No, 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 that's not true. Look at this. I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain. Look at this. Then each of them was given a white robe. You have to have a body. I mean, I guess maybe they could be like a little spirit cloud holding a white robe. No, 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 no. I don't think so. I think that they were given a white robe to show their righteousness. And I think that when your soul, when you go to heaven, you will immediately have a body. It'll be like nothing happened. It'll just be instant. Just like that, you'll be in heaven. You'll wake up. You're just in a tent right now. Your body's just a tent. You'll wake up and you'll have your true body. Your soul will have your true body. Okay. So I just want to make those points clear. The sixth seal is the great earthquake. All right. Yeah, this is good stuff. This is all good stuff. Then I watched as he opened the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. The stars in the sky fell to earth, as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up. Every mountain and island was removed from its place. So as much as I wish I could keep it all on this one chart, I'm gonna have to start a new one. Because things are just getting a little bit too crazy. Alright, so let me add my favorite colors. At least start off with black and white, add swatch. Okay, white, add swatch. Alright, so let's talk about this a little bit. And I watched as he opened the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. Okay. So we have an idea of what the chronological order of the seals, the trumpets, and the vials will look like. So I don't think we really need to get into that into this next chart, but let's talk about the sixth seal. So I'm gonna attempt to draw a straight line. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just to give us a little space. All right. These are the seals. There was a great earthquake. So there's an earthquake. When the Bible says great, it means great. Probably something we have never seen before. The sun turned black like a sackcloth. Okay, so the sun turns black. A sackcloth, it's not really anything complicated. Just think of a sock, okay? You don't need to get super complicated with it. All right, so the sun turns black. That'd be kind of freaky to have like a black thing shining light in the sky. That would be very intimidating, to say the least. All right. Figs drop, and the stars fell in the sky. The stars in the sky fell to the earth as figs drop from a fig tree shaken by a strong wind. That's obviously meteorites. Okay, I need to make that a little thicker. So sensitive at the end here. Okay. Oh my gosh. Meteorites. That's meteorites. So meteorites will be falling. That'll be a little bit intimidating, to say the least. Every which way. Might as well add some yellow into there. that's brown. Let's get some yellow. All right, add swatch. Okay. All right, so we got meteorites. As figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. Maybe you've never seen this before. I mean, it's not going to be like leaves, because when leaves fall, they softly, fall, and they kind of spin through the air, and they do this elegant dance with the wind and with the air as they gently fall into the ground. No, if you've seen an apple tree, that's close enough, or maybe a pine cone tree, like a fir tree, a Douglas fir tree. I don't know what drops pine cone, guys. I don't know. But I'm sure there's a lot of smart people, like 90% of the people on the internet know. But either way, think of it as like an apple tree. When these things hit the ground, there's going to be an impact. There's going to be a big impact, right? It's not going to be like a little, tiny thing. It's going to explode a little bit. So it'll be like when they hit, and it'll probably fill the sky. Like, you'll look through the sky and it'll probably be one of the scariest things you've ever seen in your life. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up. Every mountain and island was removed from its place. So this one I like to have a lot of fun with. So can anybody guess what I'm trying to draw here? Wow, that's pretty terrible. Okay. I'm going to try this again. It doesn't look as good as I thought it would in my head. But either way, I like to think that it may very well be an atomic bomb. Or a hydrogen bomb, or whatever kind of freaking bomb they've come up with lately to destroy the Earth. But imagine, you would be a speck. You would be smaller than that. You would be so small that if you looked up at this, if you zoomed into this and looked up at it from like a okay, if we zoom, this is zooming out on this, but if we saw this in the sky, it would look like this. It would just take up the whole screen. You wouldn't even see anything else. That's all you would see. So it probably looks like the sky is receding, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. What is powerful enough to move mountains? God and atomic bombs. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slave and free, hid in caves and among the rocks and mountains. This is very straightforward. Everybody is going to be absolutely terrified by this. In fact, if you read the Old Testament, it talks a lot about the end days. Horrifying. People are going to be so scared that when their teeth chatter, your teeth are going to crack. They're going to be so scared they're going to be peeing themselves, defecating in themselves. That's how terrifying all this stuff will be. You've never in your life seen anything this scary. Maybe you have, I pray, God bless you. But in general, most people have never seen anything like this. They called to the mountains and rocks, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of the wrath has come, and who can withstand it?" So, this is not Judgment Day. This is the day of their wrath. And notice how the wrath is of the Lamb. Why? Why is it of the Lamb? Let's go back a little bit. Jesus has the deed to the earth. He can do with it whatever he wills. It's no coincidence he gets this deed right before the 1,000-year reign. For the great day of the wrath is come, and who can withstand it? Do you think that you're a warrior? Do you think you're a great person? Do you think you're a good person? Do you think you're strong? Do you think you can survive anything? Do you feel like nothing ever happens in your life? Do you feel like you will live a long life? Go stand in front of an ocean during the middle of a huge storm. Not only will you, well, please don't do that if it's dangerous, A, but B, if you can do it safely, which is very hard to do, you will no longer feel that sense of pride or sense of arrogance. You will feel very, very small. The power of the earth is so mighty. This is how you would feel. So the Bible isn't being cryptic here. It's trying to put you in the perspective of what these people are feeling. This is what John is seeing. And of all the things he's seeing, he's not talking about, how big were the caves and how many rocks were in the mountains. He's looking at it. Imagine watching this. It's like he watched a movie. And he's looking at this movie and he's like, all these people are crying for the rocks to kill them or for the rocks to hide them from the face of God and from the wrath of the Lamb. Who can withstand this? It's going to be intense. It's going to be really intense. Let's talk about the sealing of the 144,000. So I don't want to dig into this too much, but I do want to point out that 144 obviously is 12 tribes of 12,000, or 12 times 12. It's 12 tribes of 12,000 people. Okay. So who are these people? Where do they come from? All right, first of all, some people say these are all the Christians that will ever survive. I believe, I don't want to name names, but these are not all the Christians that will ever be. That's insanity. Because first of all these people are, they're sealed on their forehead. They had to have been alive during this time. I mean, I just don't know how you get past that argument. So unless if you're going to live until this time, and you believe this 144,000 is every Christian, which I don't understand. It very clearly says who they are. But okay, whatever. And, all right, so... And I saw the four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, four corners, north, east, west, and south. I mean, people get so crazy. They think the earth is flat and a square. The Bible very clearly talks about, the sun circulating around the earth and the earth being hung around nothing. I think God knew that the earth didn't have literal corners. I think that this is just how you would say north, east, south, and west, the four corners. The ends of the earth. Today, I still, as slang, say the ends of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth to prevent any wind from blowing on the land, the sea, or of any tree. Then I saw another angel coming out of the east, having the seal of the living God. This east is most likely related to the east gate in Jerusalem, which is where the prophet is prophesied to come through on the day of judgment. He called out in a long, loud voice to the four angels who had been given power to harm the land and the sea. Do not harm the land or the sea or the trees until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed. All right. So these are just people who are currently living in the time who get sealed, their foreheads sealed. That's it. These are not people in heaven. Right? People in heaven can't be harmed. These are people on the earth. All right, the great multitude. So this is a lot to unpack. I think at this time I may skip this. But essentially, these are people who are saved by God, and never again will they hunger, never again will they thirst, and God will wipe away every tear from them. Okay. So let's move on to the next part, just because, I don't want to take up too much time. I always take up so much time in these, but the seventh seal, silence in heaven. When he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. That is very significant. When the seventh seal is opened, there's silence. Okay? So we'll do silence. So we'll go back here and we'll write judgments. Yikes. We'll write judgments. And then we'll write silence here. All right. So I hope that's clear. I don't think it's super clear, but I'll put silence. All right. So in heaven, there's a lot going on. There's people shouting. It sounds like thunder. I mean, I've been to quite a few concerts myself. I couldn't imagine someone shouting and it sounding like thunder. But either way, yeah, it was completely quiet. I think people were quiet because of the next thing that was about to occur, which is the trumpets. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me at Taken Up. And I want to ask, if you like the video, if you enjoyed the video, please like or subscribe. And until next time,